Is continuing coverage of Hurricane Irma. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on First Coast Living. We're here with Chris McGrath. He is from FPL, Florida Power and Lights. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, so we were having a big conversation while we were watching the latest track to kind of get an idea. But you had some interesting numbers as far as many customers as you have, how many outages you are anticipating.
Absolutely. So just to set perspective here, we serve about half the state of Florida. It's nearly 5 million customers, and obviously Irma is a tremendously destructive storm, and we anticipate as many as 4.1 million customers could be out.
Interesting you say, if there is an outage, don't call, because you guys are on top of it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we're on top of it, and we know that customers want to help, and we get that, and that's great. The best thing to do throughout this entire storm is, number one, be prepared. Make sure that if you're up here in North Florida, you have time to prepare. Make sure that you're doing that, and know that we're on it, just like you said. We'll know that you're without power. We have a veritable army of restoration workers who are in this state right now. The workforce number is about 14,000, and it will continue to grow.
So you guys are going to be deploying the assets as you see the outages starting to happen. So like we said, you don't have to call anybody to let them know. What are things people should be thinking about now? You brought up an interesting point about removing the furniture, you know, from the outside. And of course, we're thinking, oh yeah, we don't want it to damage the homes, but you say it could damage the power lines, you know, inadvertently knock one of those things down.
Absolutely. So anything in your yard that could be picked up with these hurricane force winds, whether it's patio furniture, any kind of decorations, anything that could be lifted into the air, not only will damage homes, but it will get into our lines and cause outages. So take the time now to prepare your home.
Downed power lines always happens right after a storm. Sometimes they're laying on the ground, sometimes they're low lying. What do you say about people who just want to scoot under those things or walk around them or drive over them? What do you say about down power lines?
No, and I'm glad you brought this up, because obviously following a storm, once we get through this, and we will, but once we get through this, people are naturally curious. They want to go outside, they want to check their home, they want to check their neighborhood, they want to check on their neighbors, right? It's human nature. But the best thing to do following a storm is let first responders do, frankly, what we do best, and that's help get our communities back to normal. If you see a down power line, do not go near it. If you see a down power line on the ground, you can't tell the difference and tell whether it's energized. So the best thing to do if you see a down power line, stay away, call 911. If at any point after the storm you're out driving around, realize that there will be power outages and that intersections won't have stoplights. Treat them like a four-way stop. Yeah,
that's a good point. I can't tell you how many times I've seen in covering hurricanes where you have the low lines and people just assume they're off and they're driving underneath it and you don't really know. Let's talk about the resources that you have that people can tap into. Like we said, not the number, but the website and the app. So let's start with the website. What can we find there?
Sure. So the best thing that customers can do right now here in the greater Jacksonville area, because there's still time to prepare, you go to fpl.com/storm. There's a great resource guide with ways to prepare your home, prepare your business, you know, stuff to get ready for this storm. During the storm, if you haven't done so already, download the brand new FPL mobile app. It's available for Apple and Android devices. That's a really great way to stay connected with us during the storm. We're going to push out as much information as we can about the restoration effort and in some cases a rebuilding effort of our infrastructure, because this is a powerful storm, but it's also a place where in the palm of your hand you can check the status of your outage. So two really great resources, one of which is a nice app for your smartphone.
And I was asking you, are you going to get any sleep over the next 3 days? And you said probably not.
No, probably not, but you know what, that's okay, because the focus for us is on restoring customers once they're out, and in some cases completely rebuilding our infrastructure. We know that with a rebuild, we don't measure it in days, it's measured in weeks, unfortunately. But our commitment is pretty steadfast. We are going to work around the clock for as long as it takes until each and every one of our customers is back online.
Yeah, because it's pretty miserable here in Florida, you know,
absolutely,
in the summer months when you don't have any air conditioning. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to be tough, but it's good to hear that the resources are there. What other words of wisdom would you give for people either before the storm, after the storm, anything that you think that they could take away and find useful?
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing, and we've been stressing it for the past couple of days at FPL, is make sure you're listening to both Governor Scott and your local emergency management officials. If you're in an evacuation zone and you're told to leave, please do. I mean, it could be a matter of life and death, and so that's first and foremost. And then once we get through the storm, a lot of it is patience, which I know is difficult. It is tough to be without power. Let's be real. Yeah. But know that we're on it. Other utilities, we're all in this together, and we're going to rebuild together. And just know that we're going to be on it for you.
Yeah, and I remember covering storms in the past. If you do have a generator, right, the number one thing that you don't want to do is put that in an enclosed area, right? Make sure that the generator and the fumes from the generator, once it's on, have the chance to get out of the house.
Yeah, a couple of things with generators actually. So to your point, keep it outside.
Yeah.
Plug your appliances directly into the generator. Do not plug it in to the circuit breaker, because that could backfeed the grid. Dangerous for crews who are working. And the biggest thing is, even if you've done this before, read the manufacturer's instructions. Just go through it. Do it for us. Just make sure that you know what you're doing.
Chris, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. And thanks to FPL, Florida Power and Light, for coming on and sponsoring the segment. Coming up.